Now, the rest of the story.
So the cows are officially mad at me. The grain bin is dry and they think that I'm coming to feed them. So this is what happens when you turn your cattle into big babies. They get used to, they see you, they're getting fed. So we spent all day making fence. We spent the last 4 days making fence. Everybody is, well, fat and happy, to put it bluntly. I check their water. Water's clean-ish. Needs to be clean before winter. Just coming out to check all the babies because I'm pretty much officially a fall calver now. Spring and fall. You know, calving once a year isn't enough, so twice as much, you know. Everybody's happy out here. Barn lot needs to be cleaned up, but at this point the plan was to really just scrape it up and just, I wouldn't mind actually a little bit of fertilizer on this pasture, but harvest is pretty much here. I mean, beans could go, but trying to get fence made, I mean, it's a lot of the stuff that's been pushed back, and we just want to get it done. So most recent, and from what I am telling, or I can really tell, the last calf for the year. So Reba wasn't the last one, which, you know, Reba is my little red heifer. She's down at home. And outside of my parents' calves, I mean, everybody up here is, this is essentially my cow herd plus all the heifers that I keep back. I mean, I do have two or three heifers down at my place I'll bring up. And then part of the reason, not the only reason, that I'm going through and fixing up the fences down at my place is that it needs it. It really does. But it gives me options going forward here, a more realistic option of, in the not too distant future, seems how I'm kicking it into about third gear as far as growing my cow herd. Every viable heifer is being kept back, which means I'll probably end up looking at feeding hay year round down at my place and moving hay from the valley up to my house and feeding cows down there also. So it's not ideal, I know, but going through and doing the silo and getting that all fixed up, I'm not even really willing to even look at it, because between the equipment and, well, to even chop it and then to also go through and get the feeding system up and running, it's just not viable. I got other places, better places to put my money right now, and getting up a decent cow herd will at least make projects like that a little bit more feasible. But fencing supplies prices have come down. That's why it was a little bit easier to make a bunch of board fence this year. We ended up making about 100 and over 100, a little over 100 feet more of board fence than I thought we were going to be making. But prices versus last year is the reason why we didn't do any last year. Not a big fan of board fence, but putting on the 4 boards versus the 5 boards and spacing them out 1.5 inches more versus the 5 board fences, and I think it'll work just fine. It makes it a little bit easier to put fences in. Wood fence isn't permanent. It's not as sturdy and solid as guardrail and just straight out solid metal fence, but a lot of it is you need something that's more reliable than barbed wire, and that's where we're at, is board fence. It might be another 10-15 years and it'll be shot again, but by then, with the way my current forecast outlook plan is for life, it makes it a lot more realistic. We could do an awful lot of damage in another 10 years or so. Well, even before then, getting things updated. But I mean, the equipment and everything is starting to flow. It's just picking and choosing where everything's got to go. And we're not doing too bad for an older herd of cows. We'll get the Red Angus bull, Rocky, back up here, and January 1st, March 1st, about 60 days approximately. We'll put them back in with these open heifers and open cows, and we'll have a fall herd going again. So everybody that was hopefully bred by in this summer that wasn't bred has a chance to get brought back around again this fall. So the one for sure, that tan heifer, I'm pretty confident she didn't get bred, and it is what it is. I mean, we got a bunch of little babies. My intentions are, if I can, I really should be able to find some dry hay, right? Or some dry corn. But I'll end up doing the same thing. I'll mix up a bunch of feed and fill that bulk bin, which is a 2.5 ton bulk bin. And really quick here, this is the last red heifer before Reba. So looking at her, this is her third calf that she's had this year. So that tells you how long it's been since we've had any red calves around here. And I'm just gonna mix up a bunch of corn, calf feed, whatever, and all of like the younger, like the white tagged guys. I do have a handful of steers. I'll bucket feed them, grain them by hand, and I'll sell them sometime mid to late next summer. And that's the route we'll go there. This is, oh, there's one of them. This is some kind of heat damaged hay, not actually the worst one that was out here. The worst one was like black, and you can kind of see it starting in right there. But this bale and those three, but there was, I think, 12 for sure, that they just stunk, and they still stink. And you can tell that they're warming up, they're getting warm. So going through and getting those fed out right away, and they haven't been made for that long, the cows are getting really good utilization out of it. I mean, nobody is bony, ribby, anything like that. So the biggest thing that's really hurting me on these guys, or might look discouraging on any of these cows, is that it's not a young herd. They were older when I got them. All of my parents' cattle, they're not young anymore, and it's kind of me going through, this is all of the red cattle we have are part of Kister Farms, and putting them in with the Red Bulls and at least trying to get the last 1, 2, maybe 3 calves out of them that I can, and get some red hides flowing in here. I am a hypocrite because I will have a bunch of black cows in my herd also, even though I swapped a bunch out with my parents. I mean, I'm down to 2, but I got 3 heifers, 2 heifers that are black hided that I'm going to be keeping, and they'll be bred to a Red Bull, but that's just how it is, because 30, 40, 50 head of cows. I'm not sure how many I can get up to and manage without being completely stressed out by doing it. Selling 100% of my hay off the valley is a great idea. It's stressful just because you have to be perfect 3 times, and I wasn't perfect the 3rd time. There's 15 bales down there that need to be hauled home and fed sooner than later, which those will be the next bales I really going to get. But the problem with the hay market is it fluctuates so much, there's no way to really lock in your price. Unless I had like 200 head of cows, which isn't going to happen. I'll be selling some hay every year, and that's unless I go through and put a bunch of corn down there. It's a hay farm. I mean, I'm not really sure how I feel about trying to put corn down there. I'd rather pick up more ground, better ground, to put row crops on than try to raise corn down there. That's a whole different part of the universe when you go down the hill into the valley. Just a completely different environment altogether. And even over managing it, you know, with the side dressing and hitting it with the planter with all of its cool upgrades. You can only do so much with certain ground, and that ground there is difficult. It's when it gets wet, you sink, and then if it ever does dry, it turns to concrete, and you can't do anything with it. So the green card is out. It's going to end up on the 7600 here. That is the next implement the 76 we hooked up to. It's on the Rhino mower right now. I wanted to go do a bunch of cutting with it, but my priorities are getting shaken up to where the stuff I was going to try to do before harvest are no longer really likely to happen. If they do, it'll be a rush job, and it just gets to the point where you might as well just kick it off into either after harvest or during harvest. I mean, I don't show everything I do on here. I mean, I just don't. And it seems like I'm not doing enough, and we're all always busy doing something. It's just like fencing for the last 4 days. I can only film that so many times before it gets old. So I gotta go because I gotta get home. So thanks for watching, guys. Thanks for tuning in. Take care. Take it easy. Well, this is part of a fence restoration project 2022, and part of it's a rush job. We started with just getting this upper lot above the barn cleaned out, and we did. We got everything here. I mean, there used to be a pen on this crete, and then I kind of leveled that out. Needs to do a little bit more, but you know, kind of pressed for time because we want to start bean harvest. Pile of scrap metal wires and conveyor and everything that has been left over from just the cleanup job. Just going through and getting this mess cleaned up was huge. The fence used to come down to here. You can kind of see how I actually tapered it back a little bit. It's dry out. We haven't had rain in a while, so a good soaker. I mean, no mud to really have to deal with, so it actually doesn't really work too bad. And the grapple bucket, being able to sink the teeth down in and level some of that out, is pretty nice. But we just put wire panels in across there right now. Reason being, that was the first fence we put in. And once we, unfortunately, started going through and putting some of the wood fence in, kind of leaning more towards just going ahead and doing the wood. As you can see in a distance, everything around the cattle crossing. But this isn't going to be the full fence update video because I'm not done. But I just wanted you guys to get an idea about what this kind of looked like, because I want to stack some hay up through here to get it out of my way down there so I can tear out the last real section of fence that we want to tear out. I mean, this isn't going to be 100% done, but it's a start. I mean, we got a lot of manure up there. The bed pack from last year, it's got to get cleaned out. That'll be after harvest or during harvest once we get an area to spread it. And to be honest, I do want to kind of smooth out some of this a little bit more. But the big reason I wanted this part of the lot above the barn pushed back is because I don't feel like the cows really needed. Oh, there's Reba right there. I don't really feel like the cows needed this little bit of area here. It's not like you find them loitering around up here or anything, and they're not going to be hurting on space because they have the bed pack up there, then everything in front of the barn. And if I really need to, I can let them out into the hog pasture, or the pasture they're currently in, the hog pasture, the former hog pasture. I mean, I can let them out there throughout the winter if they really need the space. But generally, in the winter, when there's 3 foot of snow, the cows really don't seem to bother it. Where if they have a set area where they're being fed and bedded down, that's generally where they stay. And having an area where I can go through and stack hay and corn fodder that's more adequate for stacking it, I'd like to. I want to put a hot wire. I have to put hot wire around these wrap bales, but there's over 30 dry bales up there over the hill. The ones back this way are the ones I want to move yet tonight, just so they're out of the way. And dry hay and corn fodder up here throughout the winter. Like having to get this leveled out is going to be pretty important, especially when you get mud and everything. You don't want too much of a slope, because with the skid steer, granted I'll have chains on it, you'll be all over the place. Thanks for, I can't remember your name, I just read it, $100,000 approximately what you were quoted to get your silo up and running again. I entirely believe that. If that was just the silo, resealed the chain and everything in it, they're probably just going to want to come through and redo the unloader if we ever want that route. The blower pipe, at least this lower section, would have to be redone by the time they rebuilt the unloader. Checked the internals, the externals, put in a feed bunk, and if it was me, if I'm the one that ever did it, I would nix out that concrete area where the bunk used to be, and I would rework this area down through here where I would set a feed bunk up actually right about where that wire panel is, and get this all reworked up through here, create it, granted probably move the dirt so it's not, doesn't have so much of a slope, but then put in a longer length feed bunk and have some place to really dedicated to feeding cattle again, which the round bales are doing fine. That's more of a wish than a real desire. I mean, it'd be nice if we could do it, but I'm not sinking $100,000 into a cattle setup when I can. $100,000 buys a lot of net wrap and bale feeders. So I gotta keep going. I'll give you guys another update here. Just tonight, I at least wanted you to get a little bit of an idea of what this looks like as of right now. So I'll catch up with you later.